Hey everybody, this is Rob and Jordan, and we are back for Archangel Inc. Live number 33. Jordan, how are you this evening?
I'm great, Rob. How are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm happy to be here. I think this is a fun topic, and it's great to chat about it. And we're dealing with some launches here coming up for some Archangel Inc. clients. Either recently they've been happening, or they will be happening here soon. And I thought it would be a lot of fun to talk about things that we can do when it's actually out to build on that momentum, to take advantage, to feel like we're maximizing our impact, and just wanted to get that information out there. Is there anything you wanted to start off with on this note?
No, I'm excited for it too, Rob. I think it's a great question. It's one that I've had, and it's one that we've been asked several times by our clients and by other people that have either watched the channel or read blog posts, and they've said, "Hey, I've done all the hard work. Now what? What do I do?"
Right, right.
It's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give a shout out to Mojo in the audience. Mojo, great to see you. Thanks for stopping in tonight. So I have some notes here, and we'll kind of just run through them and freeform it, riff on it a little bit. First here, why is launch important? Jordan, why is it important for us? Hi, John. It's great to have you here. Why is launch important for your book? Why not just put it out there and just let the gods do what they may with it?
I think it's important for anything to have momentum behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge piece of launch and getting things going. But there's a lot of reasons as far as, and we're going to talk about in a second, Amazon reasons. There's just getting everything together and making sure that everything looks good at once. But really, you just want to get eyes on your book as quickly as possible. You don't want it to fade off into the Amazon netherworld. You don't want to miss that attention. And as soon as you start getting some attention, I think attention breeds attention. And that happens a lot when it comes to book launches.
Yep.
We have some other reasons here as far as why you'd want to focus on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the main thing is there is a little bit of strategy that goes into this. It's not just the cream will rise to the top. Unfortunately, it would be awesome if every really good book out there, every amazing narrative or piece of nonfiction was able to, despite anything else, find its audience and get the attention and love that it needs. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And this is why we talk about the multifold strategy that's involved with marketing. First, you have your title. You want a good title that's going to draw people in, and a good subtitle that gets them a little bit more interested. You want a good cover so they think that there is some credibility, there is some authority to be had in this title. And then you have good sales copy, and you have hopefully good reviews, positive reviews there. And all of that, at least as it relates to Amazon, is designed to tell Amazon that, hey, this book is important, that people are going to pay attention to it, and that you are going to make an impact on people's lives. And Amazon, again, when a book comes out there, regular readers and regular viewers will know we mention this kind of idea and this strategy a lot. But when a book goes out there, Amazon doesn't know what to make of it. They're relatively agnostic about it. But if you can demonstrate that it is a high performer, that it has value, that people are interested in it, that they'll click onto it for one and land on your sales page. And then once they land on that sales page, that they are more likely than not to purchase it compared to another book, another sales page that they end up on, then Amazon is going to look favorably on that. So when you're building this launch strategy, you're trying to get all these things in place. Of course, we always tell people, authors that are working with us or otherwise, that there's no guarantee of sales. You can't guarantee that your audience is going to find you and that you're going to get the love and attention that you really deserve. But you try and stack the odds in your favor as much as possible. And that's kind of what the whole launch strategy is about. And in particular, this launch week, so that you can feel like you are doing things to maximize your advantage.
Yep.
Cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about the Amazon algorithm? I know I spoke about it a little bit, but do you have anything you wanted to share on how that works?
No, I think again, it's that, attention piece. If your book is starting to get attention from your fans or from some of the marketing work that you're doing, Amazon is going to take notice to that. That's what the Amazon algorithm does. It takes notice to sales and reviews, and it puts it in their system, and they say, hey, this is a book other people like. Let's do some work ourselves. Because, we talked about this before. Amazon wants to make money.
Yes.
They want your book to be successful. I mean, I don't think Amazon really cares what book is successful, but if a book is bringing people to Amazon and giving them sales, they're happy with that.
Yep.
And this is just, it's increasingly harder to do, Rob, I mean, I feel like every passing book launch, every passing year, it gets harder and harder to get that attention just because there's so much out there. But if you do the work on your end, you can access that, and hopefully Amazon will take notice.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, their bottom line is taking the cut of whatever book is most likely to sell. And if you can demonstrate that your book is most likely to sell, again, compared to other books in your genre, you don't have to go and compare yourself to the New York Times bestseller, to the newest, Oprah blessed title or something like that. But, to books that are selling in your area of interest, in your area of expertise, then Amazon says, great, no problem. We will send more traffic that way because we're more likely to get our, 35 or 70% cut on that title than the next one. So, that's kind of the idea of the Amazon algorithm. I know we use that term a little bit as if it is some, ghost or something, it has a spirit to itself, but at the end of the day,
it's a mythic entity.
Yes, exactly. It is the spirit of Amazon acting
Yes,
there. But at the end of the day, it's really data in that is driving data or actions on the part of Amazon. So, good data, positive data that people are interested, that they're engaged, leads to positive actions for the author, such as showing up organically on the pages of other potentially interested browsers. And, they're very keen on figuring out who those people might be and maximizing their chances. So, if you have them working in your corner, it can work to great advantage. So cool. All right. Another good, important part of the launch week is momentum building. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mentioned that, I believe, when I was first talking about this, but I think it's huge. I think as in terms of marketing, focusing on one launch point is just it's the way to do it. We have a lot of times people want to talk about, well, when do I do my launch? Do I need to set a date and stick to it? Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned and have experience, yes. If you can set a date, stick to it, and work toward that date, that's where you can gain momentum. Mm-hmm. Instead of this, hey, I'm going to do some book marketing. I'm gonna put my book out there and I'm gonna market it on occasion. Well, don't do that. Think about launching a book so you can maximize on all of these, the algorithm, this momentum, so you can just take advantage and really, like we're saying, take advantage of your book launch.
Right.
And it's just huge for momentum building when you're thinking about marketing.
Yeah, people have this expectation and this allowance, I think, for a degree of self-promotion and, mm-hmm. doing different events and letting people know very positively, very, I don't want to say aggressively, but proactively with when you have a launch. But if it's, hey, my book's out there and you just kind of let it sit and maybe tell them every week or two, they might think, okay, stop badgering me, get away with it. Whereas if it's launch, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, this is a launch time. Maybe there are other people who are reading it. Maybe there are new reviews coming in. Maybe there are other things going on simultaneous to that they can feel interested and engaged with. And we'll talk about that in a moment here. But mm-hmm. building that sense of, hey, this is an event. This is something that's cool. Yeah. This is something that we're leading to. This is something that we are getting behind and really having a good time with. It is really positive. It gets people to feel more, I don't even want to say sympathetic, but excited about it, more engaged and wanting, more inclined to participate, to make that sale, to pass it on to their social media list, to spread it organically because, hey, all of my friends are doing that. Let me go ahead and share it with some other people who might be interested too, because this is really cool. This is fun. We're having a good time with it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, so we talked about this a little bit, but just exciting your audience, when you're sharing the process of launch and you're telling them, hopefully maybe you're seeing some positive sales. If sales are really good and you feel comfortable with it, you want to start sharing some sales figures. People like to feel like they're a part of a movement. People like to feel like they are in an event. There's other people behind them that are excited too. And, success breeds success. So if you can capitalize on that success and use it to leverage your message and your book into the eyes and ears of other people, then that's really cool too. The other part of it is if you have an existing audience, let's say this isn't your first book launch and you're not just building that audience up from scratch, but maybe you have a blog already, maybe you have a YouTube channel, maybe you have some other sort of content that you've been marketing for some time. You get people pretty engaged with who maybe haven't been part of the whole book process, but they know you and they think, wow, this is really cool. You know, the book is something a little bit different. It's a new aspect to this whole enterprise, this endeavor that you're on. And they want to be a part of that too. So you're giving them something to kind of latch onto and feel positive about.
Yeah, I think that's just part of that momentum building and all of that. Because if you have an excited and an engaged audience behind your book, that's great. Because you think about some of the best marketing is going to come from other people. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're writing a really good book and you're really impacting people, I think you're going to get some additional marketing from that. But yeah, just think about ways that you can just build that audience excitement into your launch, because that can just be huge as far as sales. Because anything that's not coming directly from you is not going to come across as pushy. If someone posts on Facebook and says, "Hey, I just read this book, it impacted my life," I mean, that's way better than saying, "Hey, I just released my book. Mm-hmm. I know it'll change your life if you want to read it." May not necessarily, it just doesn't say as much. I think certainly you can still do that at the right, in the right way, but it's just going to be more impactful from someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you're coupling it with some sort of promotional strategy, some sort of promotional pricing, and you have some time limited element to it, when you have other people alongside of yourself saying, "Hey, I just read this book," or "I had an advanced copy of this book. I really enjoyed it. It's on sale right now for 99 cents, you know, until such and such date. Check it out, and I think you might enjoy it too." Having that built into it, that sort of timeliness element can be really helpful too. And when it's bolstered by other people, I think that's it's more likely to land on receptive ears, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and we've talked before about the idea of having a launch team. Mm-hmm. I think this exciting your audience can kind of work into that, because I think it's something you can even ask people. If you feel comfortable asking, you can say, "Hey, reviews from other people are really beneficial. If you haven't posted on Facebook recently and wouldn't mind sharing this book out, here's something you could say about it." I mean, you don't have to do a hard sales pitch to people, especially if they're your friends or colleagues or people you work with. But I think it can be potentially a good idea to, it never hurts to ask, right? You don't want to ask, the same person 5 times. But think about just ways that you can leverage your current network, because everyone has some kind of network. And if you're excited about it and you just launched a book and you want to make a big difference and an impact, mm-hmm. I mean, there's no reason not to ask. The worst they can say is no, yep. or not right now, or there's definitely worse things they can say, but they probably won't.
Right. Get out of here! I'm never talking to you again. How dare you?
You're fired. Okay,
you're fired.
Shouldn't have asked your boss to do that.
yeah,
but
exactly.
We didn't give you that suggestion.
For sure. Yeah, and we talk about the importance of doing things with tact and humility and grace and graciousness. So if you're observing all of those recommendations, then you trying, "Hey, I'd really love it. It would mean a lot to me if you put the word out. It's launching here. I'm really trying to get some attention on it. Anything that you can do would be really helpful." A lot of people may be more receptive to that than you would think. So.
I just think that's a really good point, Rob. I really like that we are talking about that specifically, because I think in terms of things that you can do during your launch, really it's leveraging your network and asking people for their opinion of what they think of the book, asking them to, "Hey, if you really did like it, share it." There's no reason not to ask those things. And, I just think that's a really important piece. If you're sitting down and wondering, okay, I did all the right stuff, I got everything ready, what more could I be doing? Well, write a list maybe of the top people you haven't talked to the book about, and maybe not even write a list. Maybe just send out some text messages if you want to just hustle. Right. It depends on how hard you want to plan it or how much time you have. But yeah, just think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. So let's move on here. Preparing for launch. So there are some things that we maybe should have in place. Anything that you want to say as an opening, mention for this part of it?
Yeah, I just think I want to stress again, and you did mention it earlier, but just stress again the importance of making sure your title, cover, and sales copy are just the best that they can be. Now, it's one of those things you might have to. I think you do want to get feedback on the sales copy. You may even have to test it during the initial phases of your book, and that's all normal. But just try to get it as good as you can. If you're wondering about things to do, go back and check that. You don't want to check those things over and over again, because you don't want to just add changes to a cover or title last minute.
Right.
But sales copy you can change. So just read it again or ask someone else to read it. Hey, does this really make sense? Am I really showing what people are going to be getting from my book if they decide to, if they're going to decide to pick it up?
Right.
So you can do those things, but just being prepared with those three is just super important. So that's what I wanted to mention there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Having all of those ducks lined up, and again, we'll touch on this toward the end here, but there is a strategy that's involved. There are a number of different things that you might want to have in place and think about. You can potentially just willy-nilly release it. You finish the book, you put it out there and hope good things happen, and sometimes they might happen. There's a possibility that will be the case, but there's also a good possibility that you will get swallowed up in the sea of other titles that are competing in your similar genre, that are much more intentionally put together. So by going that extra mile, by putting that intentionality into your whole presentation, into having everything dialed in right, your sales copy, your book title and subtitle, your cover, your content, your formatting, all of those different things, having that in place is provides you an opportunity to gain that small little edge that the next person may not have, and that could lead to the success that you're looking for, or greater success relative to what you were capable of without it. So just having a good launch strategy in mind here. So let's talk a little bit. We actually kind of covered this, but what to have in place. All of those different elements. Another question I think that's important, and sometimes we'll get, especially with our recommendations, which we'll get to in a moment, is how long should I wait? How long out should I wait for launch after my files are ready? So I know. Well, I'll let you answer that, Jordan. What do you recommend?
Sure. Our recommendation is 30 days. Once you have your final files and everything is ready to go. So that's really, if you're looking at especially if you're on the DIY end and you're doing this yourself, if you have two different lists of everything that you need to do to get the book done and then marketing on one side, you can be doing marketing while you're doing the content and figuring all that out, because you actually are, but don't move on to the launch phase until you completely put everything off on your checklist on the content end. Make sure everything is good to go, and then 30 days from there. So it's final files and everything really just all set and good to go. Because I've seen people get distracted with what they're trying to focus on the book still, and I'm like, well, hey, let's pull away from the book. We're done with that. You should be done with that. Let's move on. If we're not done, then that's fine.
But now's not the time to be looking at more. At launching it.
Yeah, if we're not done, let's push off the launch and figure out what we need to do and then go. It's not something like you want to do marketing at the same time, but when you're thinking of launch and final files, timing can get really dicey if you're not separating those things out.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, and I want to clarify, because I think sometimes we send messages that are I'm just laughing at your your bowl cup. It's a regular cup.
I could cover the whole screen here, Rob.
I know. So people might think, well, Rob, Jordan, you're talking out both sides of your mouth. You say that we should be marketing from the get-go. Why are you telling me now to stop talking about marketing and to not be worried about marketing just yet? And it's a good question, and it's an important question, and it's a distinction to draw. And the way I would explain it is this: marketing and general thinking about your audience and how you are going to reach them is something that you should be thinking about all along the way. But when it comes to actually the event of the launch and getting ready for the discrete action of getting it out there, making it available for public consumption, that's a little bit different. And when it's time to be focused on the content of your book, the formatting, the design, all of those different elements that go into creating those finished files that Amazon receives from you and transmits out to a paying customer, that requires its own attention. And if you don't have everything in line, but you have already set a launch time, you just open the Pandora's box for potential confusion, 11th hour issues that come up. Oh my gosh, there's this terrible concern that I have. My file didn't render properly. I really thought it had, but I must have lost it. I've uploaded an earlier version. I need to go and upload this, but it's 12 hours before you're about to launch, and it's a big stressful mess. So that's why when you're dealing with that content stuff and anything else related to that, get all of that done. Make sure you're totally, completely satisfied with it before you set your launch date. And again, that's why we use that 30-day metric, that recommendation to hold off. Okay, have everything out there and prepared and ready. And then when it comes time to launching, we're not second guessing any of that other content, any of that other work that we've done already. We know that is dialed in and tight and satisfying, and we've got it on lockdown. So now we can put all of our heart and soul and energy into this next phase of the sales process, of the publishing process.
Yeah, I love that distinction, Rob. Really, it's just marketing should be something you're focused on all the time. But yeah, once you get your book done and ready to go, it really deserves the most part of your attention as you can give it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe a shorter way to say that is marketing is ongoing, but the launch is a discrete event that needs to have its own focus, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. I will mention as well, for anybody who has not seen it yet or is tuning in for the first time, we do have a book that Jordan put out, which is called A Book Launch Gladiator, and it covers a lot of this and overall strategies, kind of a guide if you've never done this before. Really helpful resource, and I will include a link, but you can find it at archangelinc.com/ESP, which is the Entrepreneur Starter Pack. And that includes both my title and Jordan's title. So if you are looking to learn a little bit more about book launch and want something in print format and not just on YouTube and Facebook Live format, then definitely check that out. So cool. All right. So how long should we wait? We talked about that. About a month. A month is a good amount of time to get all of those things in place and have your whole system set up so that you can really maximize it on the designated day that you have decided on. Now it is launch day or launch week. So what are we going to do, Jordan? What are some ideas for how we can make the most of this time?
Sure. Yeah. Now that we're at this point, we're here. We launched the book. I think the very first thing is that you should be doing is just double check, make sure your Amazon page looks good, make sure that the price is how you wanted to have it for launch. If you set up any promos, make sure they're running. I mean, that's probably obvious. You're probably going to do that. You're probably going to be focused on that. But I think that's a great first step. I don't know if you had that listed, Rob. I just kind of thought about that. Yeah. Definitely just make sure your ducks are in a row. Like we said, you want your focus to be there, but it doesn't hurt to double check those things and just make sure they're good and ready to go.
Right. Yeah. Just make sure that the title is good. One of the things that I see recommended, and I think it's a great idea, is have a dry run. Go purchase it yourself. Purchase a copy yourself, especially if you're setting it at a promotional price, or even if not, make sure that there are no checkout hiccups. Make sure that by the time the file is delivered, either digitally or in print, it is as expected from Amazon. So this is another reason why it's important to have this up ahead of time. Have your title available and listed there. Maybe it's not actually hard launched on the day that it's initially available, but as soon as it's available, take advantage of it. One day ship it to you if you have that as an option. If you're doing the print version, obviously the digital version is going to be available almost immediately. Get it, look through it, see what the buying experience will be like for the people that you are trying to attract. And once you're satisfied that everything is good, then you can move on to those next steps. If there's something that is going on that's not quite right, you still have a little bit of time. So again, we talk about 11th hour issues. Something comes up. If you contract your time frame and have everything happening, within 24 hours or a day or two of your initial release, then you don't give yourself that flexibility. You create this opportunity for inadvertent errors to go out and potentially lose customers, feel embarrassed about it, anything like that. So want to reduce that as much as possible with the forethought and planning we're discussing. So
yep, and not to beat a dead horse for that, Rob, but just when you're thinking about especially if you're going to be purchasing Amazon pay-per-click ads, or maybe you're running a Facebook ad program, and you're doing all this work and potentially even paying money for ads, you want to make sure you're converting at the highest rate possible. So that's why we say to make sure you double check, make sure things look good. The last thing you want is to send people to your page and then they're downloading a copy of your book that's the wrong file, or a different book, or something is messed up in there. So double checking that, not just for the work and the hustle that you're doing, but potentially for paying customers and ads as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I may have shared this experience before, but I was involved in a launch early on with Matt, who I started the company with. It was one of his books before Archangel Inc. even existed. But I had a previously saved version of the Kindle file that I uploaded and sent up. And then by the time he was promoting it to his list of many thousands of people, there was no last 2 chapters in it, and we felt really bad and hustled to Amazon and emailed them and said, hey, is there any way that you can expedite the review process and make this live? We're sending a ton of traffic over. We'd really love to make sure that people get the title that they're supposed to be getting, the full book that they're supposed to be getting. And, it was just an unfortunate and embarrassing sort of incident. It was not life ending. Obviously it worked out. We're all still here, but it was avoidable. And that's why we want to do all of this, make sure that things like that don't happen if they don't have to.
Yeah, I think that's with anything that you're doing online. If you can kind of put yourself through the process of the sign up process as much as you can. I do that a lot. I send, if I'm setting something up, I'll type my wife Miranda's email in there and be like, hey, can you look at this real quick? Make sure that it's sent to you, trying to even just push it off a little bit, not just be my own eyes. Yep. But the more you can just check stuff, and anytime you're setting up a new system, to run it, run through it yourself and just kind of see what the customer experience is just a valuable process.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do this in other ways. This is just a little bit of a tangent, but I know a number of authors and entrepreneurs, people who create digital content, recommending to sign up for email lists, for sales sequences, for other products and services out there in your genre or in related genres, just to see what that whole process is like. What's their sales funnel? How do they engage you? What's their freebie opt-in? What's their upsell? What's the next high value way that you can connect with them, and go through that whole process, see what's effective about it, what works, maybe what doesn't work, see what you can learn from it, because putting yourself in that customer experience can be really informational and educational as a content creator yourself. So again, putting yourself in that situation as a consumer of your own content, potentially really helpful and really educational, and can give you some ideas on how to tweak it. Hey, that email, maybe if I do things, this other way, if I tweak it just this little bit, could be good. Maybe don't include 3 hyperlinks in the email, but focus on 1 or something like that. So all potentially helpful and instructive.
Yeah, I think that's a great tangent, because I've had the experience where I've done that myself, and I find myself at the end, Rob, hey, I want to buy that. Right, wait a second, I wasn't even signing up for this necessarily because I was interested.
I just wanted to learn. What the heck?
Yeah, but then as soon as I have those experiences, I go, wait, okay, why? This is kind of crazy. Like, I didn't even know this person, and now I'm considering buying from them. That's a huge learning point. What did they do so effectively that I'm ready to buy, and I didn't know this person a week ago? That's pretty cool. So taking things like that, are just potentially be highly valuable. And you could cross over and do that on Amazon as well. Look at other books and see what they're doing. We did a live series a few months ago now, where we went over and did books that are doing well on Amazon, from potentially top name authors, and some other books as well. And we just looked to see what those books were doing well. And this definitely further on the tangent than probably we needed to go. But if you want to look back, you can find those as well. But definitely a good thing to think about, what are other people doing well, and then how can you replicate that?
Right. And we have a comment here from Bonnie, swipe file. So yeah, just that idea of using the sales swipe, the copy, the information in there that brings you further in and along in that relationship building and sales generating process. But yeah, no, I think that's an important note. And it's good to learn from people who are doing it really effectively. What happened I'm sure not every email list that you sign up for will make you think, okay, I definitely need to buy from this person. So what did they do that changed versus the person who, hey, I wasn't even interested in a new, home workout routine, but here I am, and I'm ready to open up my wallet. So how did that happen? What was the process? How can I reverse engineer that? So really, yeah, great stuff. Cool. Yep. Okay. All right. So next thing that we recommend and talk about during launch day and launch week, perhaps what we're doing now, Facebook or YouTube lives. And tell me a little bit about that, Jordan.
Sure. These are potentially huge because especially if you have a paperback copy of your book, even just holding it up and talking a little bit about it and just sharing your excitement, that's a key part of that. But just talking about the fact that you have a book launched and, letting people know that, hey, you can buy it. It's my launch week. I'm super excited. You can go here on Amazon and get this. Right. You can do that on Facebook on your business page or even on just your personal page if you feel comfortable doing that. And then you can potentially do that on YouTube too. Even if you're just starting a YouTube channel, start it with some YouTube lives and just say, hey, I'm a new author. I just want to share a little bit about my book, and maybe you have some friends come over from your other social media that would like to watch it there. But I think lives, and we've talked about this before, Rob, I think lives are great because it's not something everybody is doing. There's a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily as comfortable with doing lives. I think a lot of authors are like, I don't want to do that. And I used to be that way myself. Like, I don't want to go on live. What if I stumble over my words? What am I going to say? Are people going to think I'm crazy or I don't know what I'm talking about? Great. And yeah, there are people out there. But just doing that is just it's a brave step into saying, hey, I believe in my stuff. I believe in what I wrote, and I'm here to share it with you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's a good practice, good experience for you, and then particularly if you have some established techniques and patterns, telling a story of somebody who benefited from your work or from the insight that you have in your book. Maybe you, like, for example, in The Published Professional, one of my books, I talk about a real estate agent who ended up selling $100,000 based on a PDF, and he put it out and he kind of forgot it. And how did he do that? Well, he wasn't actually making a whole lot on the sales of the book, but he was getting people who are really interested in the process that he uses. And so, telling a story like that could be a way to catch people's attention. And that's kind of one of the theses of my book, that books can be really helpful, not just because of the direct sales that they offer, but as a way to build your brand, to build your authority and credibility and so forth. And you tell little anecdotes and stories like that. That can be really cool. I know there's another colleague that I have in my town, and she has an email or actually a physical newsletter that she puts out, and she tells little stories of people who have benefited from, I think, it's hearing aid products and things. So before and after of what happened, and how great it was to be able to hear the sound of their grandchildren again, and things like that. You tell those stories, and it can be engaging, and it's a way for you to practice and build your chops. And again, you can do this on a not live format, but live is a good avenue because the technical barriers are reduced somewhat as long as you have, in most cases, a smartphone or really basic applications on a web connected device. You can put it out there and see some positive advantages to that. And if it's something you decide that you want to pursue or that you have a knack for or you're comfortable with and want to get better at, it's a great opportunity to do that. Like in our case, we've been doing this for almost a year, for 33 weeks, which is crazy, and yeah, it's great. Bonnie mentions also this note that you shared here. Videoing oneself can be intimidating. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, it's important to do what you're comfortable with, to push your comfort zone, but to figure out where your niche is going to be, where your market's going to be. Is it going to be kind of writing? So building a blog or some other content platform, written content platform, building your presence there, or perhaps on audio behind the microphone, or in front of the camera, or maybe some blend of all of those three. But those can all be helpful, and could be a way to stretch yourself out a little bit and connect with your audience.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to share here is another thing that you can do during your launch week is to recycle some old content. And maybe that sounds a little bit funny, but what's been really good and resonant with people in the past? It's a good opportunity, a good time to kind of put your best foot forward. Hey, here's this post that I had that was really engaging, that people had lots of comments on, or that was shared and retweeted and cross-posted and so forth. And I want to share it with you again because it gives you a sense of what I'm about. Some of the other cool stuff that I've been able to do, and that can in turn lend authority and credibility to your book, and hopefully generate some people interested in purchasing it.
Yeah, I think that really fits with what we were just talking about, Rob, with the video and potentially audio. If you're going to recycle old content, you could take a blog post and turn it into a video series, or I don't know if you'd want to start a podcast, or you could do some kind of audio format, or even just adding audio format to a blog post or something like that. But you can think about how to use potentially even content from an old book and that you may have written, and bring that up and do a video series about it, or you can read it out loud right from the book, or you can just do content surrounding that. I've been doing that more and more with the different things I have. I think, things that I've written 3 years ago, I don't think with the same mindset as I did, but having that like backbone of something to build from can be really helpful sometimes, versus just staring at a blank screen. While you're sitting there on launch week, you're just like, I got a blank Google Doc and I have a Facebook page up, and now I'm not sure what to do. Well, you potentially even start reading some of your older stuff, see what might be resonating with you, and maybe share some of that.
Right. Yeah. Have some sort of oldies but goodies series, and you can go back and, hey, here's some things that I was thinking about a couple of years ago. Let's see how far I've come along. Do I still agree with this? What would I change? What would I say different? It gives you a chance to potentially be a little extemporaneous, take advantage of the fact that this is a live platform and a platform where you can potentially be engaging with people if you have an audience that's attending and commenting and so forth. But also not, like you said, have to come up with new material altogether, from scratch. And it can be very, very helpful. And people say, hey, I remember reading that post a while ago. That's really cool. And again, just gives you another entry point and a way for you to connect with your audience. Bonnie says, still figuring things out with her channel, but thanks for the great ideas. You're very welcome, Bonnie. Thank you for stopping in, and feel free to ask questions if you have any along the way as we continue to chit chat here. Cool. Anything else that you wanted to say on that old content?
No, I was just going to share, Rob, that, like I said, I've just been starting to do this more and more. I actually, I handed a friend a copy of my most recent book, The Balance Point. And he was like, oh, this is really cool, Jordan. And he started like looking through it, and he said, hey, have you done like video content for any of this stuff? And I was just kind of like, no, I haven't. That's a great idea. And it just started me thinking of, I had heard this recycle old content, potentially even recycling content that you had just written that's in a book. Well, yeah, if people aren't going to read a book, maybe you're missing potential audience members by not turning it into video. So just potentially, if you're running out of content ideas, or have, if you want to make a list of things that you can be doing, just think about that.
And Mojo says, I use my blogs and turn them into video. Yeah, great idea.
Cool.
One of the things that Dale, our good friend of the channel, Dale Roberts, mentioned, when you have books available in all three platforms, in digital, in print, and in audio, who wins? Your audience wins, because people get to select what content that they want to consume that content in, or what platform they want to consume that content in. And so when you have it available in all of those different ways, in some ways, maybe you think, oh, well, this isn't original. This is recycled. This is, bringing, I don't know, just putting the old stuff back out there. But if you are putting it into this other medium, you're finding a potential whole new audience. And then also for the people who may have already read it, they might get something new out of it, because it's not going to be exactly the same. Again, even if you are literally reading it word for word, just being able to see you and see your tone, see how you engage with the material, and then interacting with your audience as you do that, it can bring some additional value there. So really a great idea.
Potentially huge for keeping things updated too, Rob. If even 6 months ago, there may be something in one of my books that I would read out loud to an audience on video and be like, actually, wait a second, that website doesn't exist anymore, or I've actually changed my process with that. I wrote that, but here's what I'm going to do now. And I think that kind of real in the moment content can really be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be a little less intimidating too, as you're going about that process, rather than going and revising a whole book, giving yourself those bite-sized pieces and then talking about it and how you would switch things, what amendments you would make, what adjustments and changes in perspective that you've had in the intervening time. It can be a lot easier than putting out a second edition of a book. If that seems like a big ask of yourself, then doing something like this can be more approachable, simpler, more effective. Cool. All right, next idea we have here, giveaways. Consider things like Kingsumo or Upviral. So I'd love to hear about that, Jordan.
Yeah, giveaways are really, I really enjoy doing these. I think these are really fun. I like to give things away. So you could potentially do a giveaway for your book or a set of books for other authors in your genre, or if you just wanted to do something that's related to your book, but maybe some kind of physical product that relates to your book's genre. Maybe you have a hiking book and you want to give away a new pair of like Merrell boots or something like that. That would be a fantastic fit for someone who's writing a book about hiking, because you're going to find the right audience members. The only thing you really don't want to do is do a giveaway for let's say like $100 Amazon gift card. You don't want to attract everyone, because you're going to have a ton of people you have to respond to. And all that. You're really trying to find a narrow targeted audience that is going to fit with your genre. But if you can do that, even if, you can just find some potentially really good people that are very interested in your content. Like I said, I enjoy doing them. I enjoy giving things away. Really, you're doing it to try to get email addresses. You kind of have to have an email, some kind of email system set up already. But if you have that, giveaways are a great way of just adding people onto your list. And the one thing I'll share with that, Rob, is when you do those, just be honest with people. When you email them, you just say, "Hey, this was a giveaway, but this is kind of the stuff I talk about on my book, or in my emails. I talk about hiking. I give you hiking tips and all these things. If you're not interested in hiking, then feel free to unsubscribe. Or if you start getting too many emails from me, feel free to you just leave, and that's okay." But just be as honest with the people as you can about your content, and then hopefully you're going to get better people that are going to stay on your list and really respect you for that. That.
Absolutely. Anytime that you have a big influx of new subscribers through some sort of event or a giveaway or something like that, you are going to have some attrition. But if you approach it with honesty and integrity, and just knowing that, hey, I might lose 5 or 10 or 20 or 30% of the new signups, but hopefully among the people who do stick around, I'm going to have some engagement and tribe, people who are part of your tribe, then that can be a really effective way to grow that, and again, hopefully get people interested in this really amazing product, this really amazing book that you're just launching.
Yeah, and there are some people that will say that giveaways and these type of things that give you that influx of subscribers may not necessarily be the best way to gain new subscribers. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think, if you're doing it the right way and you're being honest with people and just and really spelling it out and being clear about what you offer and what you're going to talk about, it's up to that person whether they want to stick around or not.
Right. Yeah. In my experience, having done some giveaways or promotions that involve email list swaps, I was able to get, I think, over 1,000 new email signups over the course of a several-day promo. And there was some attrition. There was maybe 100 or a couple hundred people who unsubscribed. But of those people who stayed on, most are still here. There's a comparable level of engagement as there was beforehand. Maybe even in some pockets a little bit higher engagement. So those people self-selected out who weren't going to be a good fit, but the people who were a good fit, are there, and now it expanded the audience by that many new people.
And one more note about giveaways is that they do have diminishing returns. So don't do, a giveaway every week. But if you're excited about something and you're launching a book, it's perfectly a good thing to do during that time. But just don't do them too often, because you'll start to get the same people who come in, just really looking for giveaways, and maybe they'll stick around, unsubscribe, come back, and you don't really want that kind of turnover.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, final
Yeah.
note.
You're going to be attracting the giveaway seekers and not necessarily the content enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. So moving on, another thing that you can do in during launch week to catalog what you're up to and share your excitement and energy and kind of give maybe a behind the scenes look and get people more engaged and excited is Facebook and Instagram stories. So tell us about that, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, people really seem to be liking these recently. It's just another place to share. So think about, yeah, you can post on these platforms, but you can also create stories as well. And these are generally just shorter little, they're shorter stories that people can click through, and they kind of tell a story of what you are doing at that current moment. And you can talk about things, you can share different things on there. So don't forget about those as an option. Potentially even schedule that out and be like, okay, I'm going to make my like Facebook, or I'm going to make my book launch into like a week-long story. And you could get really into that, I would guess. And that could potentially be good. I have not done that for a launch, but I think that is potentially a good idea, especially if you like those platforms and maybe you already have some followers. Just plan that out and think about different things you can do to, the thing that I've learned with that is you don't want to be abrupt. I think the same thing when it comes to sharing on Facebook and social media in general. You don't want to be silent for a month and then just come in and say, "Hey, buy my book. Here it is." If you can give like a little bit of a launch pad into that, talk about even if you like we share to do, talk about your book cover on Facebook. That can be a huge thing, because then once I share my book, most of the people that are looking at that have already either heard me talking about it or had seen my book cover on Facebook. Oh yeah, that's the book Jordan was talking about. That's a lot easier to go and click than it is if they're just going to be like, I didn't even know this person was writing a book.
Yep. It's very easy. Yeah, it's very easy to get muted and ignored when you have just a single call out into the wild, and you hope that everybody's going to do exactly what you're asking them to do, but they're probably not. So yeah, like you said, if you build that relationship, if you have some context for it, you have a book about your covers, and then you have maybe a behind the scenes look when you got your first author copy of your book, and you're like, hey, I'm really excited about it. This book is going to be launching in a week or two, at such and such date, and I got it. I put this together because I had this particular problem that I was struggling with for a really long time, and I came to the solution. I wanted to share that solution, and really looking forward to sharing my thoughts on this. That's another in the sequence of events. And then when launch day actually comes up, hey, I'm really excited. And, you can do all these different things to kind of bring people along for that journey. And again, not be, as you said, abrupt about it and insistent or something, and allow people to tune you off more readily.
Yep. Cool.
All right, good deal. So let's talk about the next thing we have here, which is how can you give back? We're talking about cross promotions, reviews, etc., other things that you might be doing to engage with your broader community.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot, because I think if you're thinking about how you can give back to other authors, I think a great way to do that is just leaving them a book review. Not necessarily on Amazon, because if it's an author that's in your genre, you don't necessarily want to do that, because Amazon could potentially see that as a review swap. Even if that author doesn't go and leave you a review, they really don't want authors leaving reviews for other authors that are in the same genre. Now, if it's like a science fiction book, you could do that if you're writing about personal growth and whatnot. But really, you want to be doing book reviews. You could potentially do it on your blog. That's just a potentially great way to give back, because as an author, that when someone gives you a book review, that's huge.
Right.
Like, thank you for spending the time reading my book. It's not something that everybody's doing. And especially if you're going to post a maybe not lengthy, but a blog on a book review on your blog that says, hey, I obviously read this book. I put some time into it. Maybe it's not something you go and say, hey, I reviewed your book. I need you to send an email out to your list,
right?
But I think it's just giving back and just sharing, and you're potentially getting some good knowledge from that person and from that book, and putting that on your blog is good content for you and good content for the people that are visiting your blog, especially if it's a good book and it's in the genre.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that or reaching out to the author and saying, hey, I loved your book. I just wanted you to know I got a review of it up on my blog. Feel free to check it out. I mean,
Right.
and if you want to, you could say, hey, P.S., I'm also launching my own book right now. I'd love to get your thoughts on it or something like that.
Right.
A really soft pitch, I think, in that moment. You don't want to make it seem like you're doing that for that.
Right. Right.
Because the purpose is really not to do it so that you can get something back. It's to give and start to build your network with those other authors.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a blog post or a video review or something where you say, hey, I'm putting up, I just released my personal development book. Here are 5 personal development books that have been really impactful to me that I really appreciated, that I got something out of. And then you proceed to review them and then you mention it to those authors potentially. They might want to share it because one, it's an independent outside review of more or less unbiased for their stuff. So they might say, hey, my audience, check out what Rob has to say about about how great my book is. But in so doing, they might want to be reciprocal and pass it on to their own. Hey, if you got something out of my book, if it's anything like what I've talked about, then maybe the people who have found me and followed me might like it as well. And I'm happy to put it out there. Again, I think your point is well taken, which is this isn't about preemptively sort of strong arming them and lassoing them into an obligation that they never asked for. But if you do it with a spirit of generosity and really not expecting anything more, but to give back and to contribute to the broader community and discussion and genre that you're a part of, then it may have some of those dividends unintentionally as well. And it's a way just to keep yourself busy and in that spirit of energy and excitement and gratitude in the midst of that launch week when you're otherwise just kind of sitting there refreshing the Amazon sales page and hoping that the counter is going up.
Yeah, I think that honestly, Rob, the more as we're talking about this, I think that's a fantastic idea for something for someone to do during launch week. Just pick 10 authors in your genre and go and do that. You could even do it in, like you were saying, one blog post. Just let's say 5 or 10 books that have really impacted me that have just released and they're awesome. Here's why I liked them. And
here are my 10 favorite poetry books. And then you say a little bit about it. Again, it doesn't have to be long or extensive, but just something to engage and get people excited and feel like, hey, I read so-and-so's poetry book. That's really cool. You like them too? I want to learn more about you. And there's that sense of being a part of something that can be engaging.
Yeah, I think it could potentially, it's a great way to build trust with your audience too. Because, hey, this person's not just trying to write a book to make a quick buck. This person's doing the work and actually reading books that are probably helping him or her to get better at writing and to get better at doing what they do. And I think that's potentially huge.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say with that, Rob, is I'm just imagining a potential question that we could get, and they would say, "Hey, Rob and Jordan, okay, that's great. I want to do that. Where do I find these other authors?" And I think Google's your best friend with that. I think certainly on Amazon, you could look into new releases on Amazon. I think you could probably even type that in, new releases, and then your genre, and just see what's out there. If you're finding books that are a really good fit, the author probably has their contact information somewhere on their author page. They should. Then you can go to their website and find out a little bit more about them. Get their book. Maybe even you can even sign up and grab their book for free, or just purchase it and give back a little bit in that way too. It's not super hard to find other authors, but yeah, just think about those as strategies to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The other thing that I thought of before you even suggested that question, which I think is a good one, is you can find these authors even if they're not necessarily on that in the same genre or community or level of success as you are, but you can talk about other luminaries in your field. Maybe you're a sports writer and you want to write about the book of basketball. Like you're probably not going to get Bill Simmons to give a shout out to your book, but if you mention it and write about it, it shows that you're a part of that community. You have credibility, you have authority within the genre. People recognize you as somebody who is in that space. And the example I'll give is when I first learned about Matt, he was writing about health and fitness and nutrition and that kind of thing. And he would publish these lists every year of all the books that he had read that year. And I went through and read through, kind of the last several years, and I realized, okay, a lot of the books that I had encountered and was familiar with, he had already read. He had also, written about books that I intended to read but hadn't gotten to yet, as well as things that weren't even on my radar yet. I was like, okay, so I want to pay attention to him. I want to see what he has to say, because he has some insight potentially that I don't have yet, and he has a perspective that is informed by some of the same things that I do, but it's broader, and that was really helpful. It was cool to see that and learn from that. And you can kind of do the same thing. Obviously, different genres have different conventions, but if you say, hey, I had these top 10 favorite poetry books, and you recognize 4 or 5 of them, and 2 or 3 of them, you're like, I kind of wanted to check those out. And then there are 3 others that you have never seen before. You're like, okay, this person might be actually kind of widely read and informed and literate on this topic. And perhaps they merit my attention, and they become more interested and curious about you. Cool. All right. So last thing on the ideas for what to do during that week. Advertisements. So paid advertisements. So obviously it's great when we can get organic sales, but in some cases we might want to consider Amazon ads or other forms of advertisement. And that can be a way for us to continue that engagement and energy and momentum during the week of your launch. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Jordan.
Yeah, definitely worth it to put to make an advertisement budget for your launch. You can do a lot with a hustle, and you can hopefully get a lot organically. But if you can push some advertisements in there too, especially Amazon ads, you'll potentially start to get more organic reviews. Your book will start showing up among other books as also bots. And Amazon's been messing with that system recently. It was gone for a bit, and now it's back. I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do. But regardless of what they display, there's still going to be something within Amazon's system that is matching people with books that they might want to read. There's always going to be a continued reading list. Whether it's going to what it's going to look like or not, there's always going to be something there that is going to be pushing people to the next book. Because again, Amazon wants to sell. So once people get done reading a book, they're going to say, hey, you might also like this, because they want to just keep people down that buying path. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, with Netflix, they'll just start auto playing, the next, the next in queue. And so, Amazon wants to do that. They want you to be engaged. And obviously it's a little different model, but if they can tell you about something that you're going to like and want to buy next, they're going to do their best to connect you with that.
Yep. Yeah, and there are a lot of good resources out there as far as how to run advertisements and what to do with that, but definitely important consideration. If you haven't already thought about advertisements and you're in launch week, that's something you can look into and think about starting, and just another idea of something to work on.
Yep, absolutely. And one resource that I will mention is Dave Chesson has, I believe, it is currently still free, an Amazon ads course. And I think there are some updates, or there might be some updates coming. I know he released it initially a little while ago. So there may be some things that have changed over that time, but that's a good place to check it out. And again, that is totally free. Dave has amazing resources. We really appreciate all the things that he puts together. So feel free to check that out if you're trying to learn about advertising and ways to use that to your advantage during launch week.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So how to navigate launch successfully. So we talked about a number of different things here. We have a bunch of different ideas. You don't have to do all of them. Obviously, it's nice, any of them that really speak to you, that you're like, I'm excited about that one. That one seems fun. That one seems doable and within my wheelhouse. Focus on those first. Once you've exhausted those, if you still feel like you have some energy, or if you want to, maximize your impact a little bit further, try some of the other ones that are more of a stretch for you. Again, not everybody has to get in front of the camera. Not everybody has to, start using paid advertising. But if it's something that appeals to you, give it a shot, see how it works for you. And, the main thing is to have a strategy, build a strategy beforehand. You don't want to be thinking about all these things in the, once the book is already out. You don't want to fly by the seat of your pants if you can avoid it. The extent to which you're able to prepare and plan and build yourself a strategy and a checklist, or however it makes sense to organize your ideas, do that. Make sure you have that as a resource that you can refer back to, so that in those moments when you are maybe floundering a little bit, you're like, I don't know what to do anymore. I tried this and I did that, and what should I do next? Have that strategy in place. Think about it beforehand when you're in a clear state of mind, and when there is not the hubbub and excitement of the launch actually happening and going underway in the moment, to brainstorm. During that time, you may not have the same clarity as you would beforehand. So take advantage of the ability to get ready and prepare for it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. It's just the more prepared, the more like scheduled out you can be, the better. But it just depends on how much of a scheduled out person you want to be. If you want to just have a generic list, the things that you're going to be working on, that's potentially good. Or if you want to schedule out and say, I'm going to do these three to five things on Monday, and then Tuesday's going to look like this. I mean, that's an option as well. I don't think you necessarily have to be that scheduled out, but if that's the way you operate and that's what's going to work for you, definitely, that's something to consider.
Yeah, that's a great point. The degree to which you're able to bring your self-awareness and self-knowledge of what works for you, what strategies are most effective for helping you to achieve your productivity goals, the better. Don't start putting together lists if lists don't do anything for you. Don't force yourself to do things if you just get stressed out and anxious about it, having excessive deadlines or anything like that. So whatever, hopefully, as you're building your business and growing, you're figuring those things out about yourself, and you're just taking notes, and when it comes to actually launch time, you have a little bit of that insight, so you can say, okay, I know what I need. I know what's going to help me function best, and I'm going to try and focus on that. So yeah, great recommendation.
Good deal.
Yeah, and then just implement it. You have this strategy. You've done everything that you can. You've prepared as best you can. You've had some sort of assessment of your own abilities, your capacities, what you're capable of, what you're excited about, what you're willing to do, and you've gone out and put it into effect. And then have fun. Enjoy those things. Hopefully, the more fun that you're having, the more engaging you're making it, the more your audience is going to want to be engaged with it and interacting with you. Being sort of sour and dour and very serious or detached or something because you want to project a certain air. Maybe that works in some genres, but if that's not authentic to you, then people are not going to be able to resonate. People notice and pick up on authenticity and fun and excitement and all of that. So the extent to which you're able to bring that to your launch and get it, turn it into something that people can't but help to want to share and be a part of, the more successful you're likely to be.
Yeah, I think just the key part of that is not being afraid to be real and being yourself. I think some people think if I give too much of myself, it's going to be distracting from the content. And it certainly could be. If Rob and I spend an hour talking about my teacup and making fun of that, no one would really watch this. But just putting those little things in there, just showing people that you're real, I think can be huge. And I've seen that in responses, and people say, hey, Jordan, I appreciate that authenticity and just being real and coming, meeting me where I'm at, instead of just this like, hey, I'm someone that knows everything. I'm going to give you all this information. That's just not what most people want. Some people might want that. Right. But yeah, I think the more real you can be and just true to yourself is just going to be a huge piece during the launch week.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. One of the things I'm thinking of, Jordan, when we before we were even working together, I put together a video for one of your old websites on Fiber Warrior, and I wanted, and I don't. It may still
Fiber Warrior. People can look that up.
Right, it may still be out there, but I didn't know a lot about videography. My camera wasn't great. My angle wasn't great. The equipment that I had wasn't awesome, but I also wanted to be very deliberate and authoritative and professional. Mm-hmm. And, there were some things that were, I think, good, and the content was, decent, and I was satisfied with it. But there wasn't that, enthusiasm or authenticity that came through. It was a very deliberately affected tone that wasn't as engaging as it could be. Now, there is this sort of eternal debate, and it's tricky. It's like, okay, do you want to be authentic at the expense of being effective? Probably not. You want to be the best version of yourself, and you have to you have to put in the work, or, it behooves you to put in the work and to really focus on improving and becoming a little bit more polished, more engaging, whatever it is, wherever you feel like your struggle point is, working on that, shoring up any of those struggle areas. But at the same time, trying to do that in a way that is still speaking to you, that still allows the best and most connecting parts of you to come through, not necessarily hidden behind a wall of, implacability. So it will come in time. Part of it is the first time you get up in front of a camera. I wasn't even the first time I was in front of a camera that I sent that video out to you. Wasn't my best work. Over time, the more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it, the more you find a groove that is going to work and speak to you. And the more you are a student of people who are really effective in your genre, start paying attention to what they're doing, use some of that self-awareness, that self-criticism, or just providing feedback to yourself on areas of improvement, and then trying to implement them in a deliberate and, hopefully sensitive and compassionate way, not in a way that beats yourself up over it, but in a way that says, hey, I think I could do this a little bit better. Let me try. Let me focus on this one area and see what I can do. That will come in time. And it's a process. So be patient with yourself and hold yourself to a high standard so that you can, start to reach some of those goals that you're looking for. So I just wanted to share that as a little bit of an aside.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yep. All right. Anything else that you wanted to say on the launch week and making the most of your book launch here, Jordan?
Nope. I'm good. I think we covered it. It was good stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed this. And everybody who commented, thank you for stopping in. Mojo and Bonnie for commenting. We're happy to have you. And again, as always, we're happy to answer questions and respond to any feedback that you have in future videos. So feel free to leave those thoughts down below. And we will look forward to seeing you folks next week. Have a good rest of your evening.
See you guys.
All right.